Today's podcast is brought to you by precious metals advisor Tom Cloud. With nearly 40 years' experience in the precious metals industry, Tom Cloud offers sound advice and the best rates on precious metals. Learn more at ftmdaily.com/gold.
Friends, welcome to the Thursday edition of Follow the Money Daily, a daily podcast dedicated to your personal, spiritual, and financial liberty. Found right here every single weekday on ftmdaily.com. That stands for followthemoneydaily.com. My name is Jerry Robinson. I'm your host, the author of the book Bankruptcy of Our Nation, the publisher here at FTM Daily. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely wife, co-host, and the national director of our Christian Financial Advisor Network. Jennifer, great to have you this morning.
Thanks, Jerry. It feels like Friday because we will be closed tomorrow for the 4th of July. I hope that everyone has some great fun plans and that you have a wonderful holiday weekend. Gosh, Jerry, I guess we're just going to relax and maybe go camping or something.
Maybe. Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. We got some big reports coming out this week. We have our swing trading report and our penny stock report that are going to be coming out over the weekend for all of our folks. But yeah, we're probably going to fit in a little bit of fun there over the weekend as well. Big 3-day weekend. So anytime the markets are closed, you'll usually find that our podcast is also closed. So just kind of keep your eyes on that calendar and you'll know our calendar.
And we do have those stock trading reports coming out for all of our Trigger Trade Pro members this weekend, the swing trading report and the penny stock report. And we also, later in the month of July, have our FTM quarterly journal coming out. So our quarterly journal comes out in April, July, October, and January. So this is one of our release months. And so we are really putting together a fantastic quarterly report for all of our FTM insiders. So if you want to get that newsletter, then go ahead and become an FTM insider. And you can just go to our homepage and click subscribe and learn all about the details there.
Yeah, and you get everything, including all of our other services. You get access to the newsletter, and you get a huge archive of the last 4 years of all the newsletters you can access right there. All right, let's dive right in, because first of all, we are going to be joined today by Tom Cloud. He's going to be here with an update on gold and silver. We'll be doing an interview with him later on in the broadcast. First, I told you yesterday we're going to kind of keep moving along on this cryptome story that I told you about yesterday. Also, ISIS, we need to kind of tackle that a little bit today anyway. But first of all, Glenn Greenwald, the guy who broke the story with Edward Snowden and worked for The Guardian, has since left The Guardian newspaper and is now working at The Intercept, owned by the same guy who started eBay. And now we are hearing that his promised grand finale piece, which he had been working on for 3 months, has been squashed by the U.S. government. He is actually not going to be putting out that article, at least for now. There's a temporary hold on it. Apparently, this was going to be the big grand finale, and it was going to include, according to some sources, including Greenwald himself, a list of people who have been targeted specifically by the NSA here in America. So, very interesting that this was pulled by the U.S. government. Glenn Greenwald expected to release this just a couple of days ago, and it is still not out. Now, I told you yesterday that Cryptome had publicized plans to publish all of the Snowden documents, unedited, sometime this month. Cryptome, by the way, is a simple website that hosts files which most media outlets are probably very scared to touch because they are often, highly classified or sensitive in some manner. But the reason for the sudden release of all of these documents, and we still don't know if this is really going to happen or not. I mean, it's coming from credible sources. It's coming directly from Cryptome themselves. They're saying that they're going to facilitate the release of up to 1.7 million classified documents. And the reason why they are going to be dumping these documents onto the internet this month is because they are doing this, according to the report, to prevent a new U.S. war, which is supposedly to break out and be launched this month in July. So you have Glenn Greenwald and his major story getting pulled by the government. You have Krypton, maybe a backlash over all of this, saying they're going to dump all of the Snowden documents on their website. And the reason for this sudden release is because Krypton is claiming there is evidence of a war that is supposed to break out sometime this month, led by the U.S. There are very few other precious details. That's all we really know. So we're going to keep you updated on this because obviously this is a very important story.
It is important, but one thing I have to say, just to sort of level out the fear factor perhaps, is the fact that Cryptome currently has a Kickstarter campaign. Now, Kickstarter is kind of like a crowdfunding website where people can raise money for certain projects. And Cryptome currently has a Kickstarter project to raise $100,000. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Not that I believe one way or the other that these documents will be released or they won't be released, or there really is a war brewing or there isn't. I'm not sure on those matters. There's no solid evidence yet that's been released on that. But I do know that they do have a Kickstarter campaign to raise some money. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, that this could be legit or it might not be legit.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you never know, the chicken or the egg, which one is, did they start the Kickstarter campaign and then try to raise awareness, or vice versa? Well, they've been around for a long time. They're a legitimate group. And their founder is a guy by the name of John Young. And he's been at this for a very long time. He runs the entire website for $2,000 a year. In fact, he helped WikiLeaks until WikiLeaks got above that threshold. He doesn't believe in spending a lot of money on this stuff, and he still runs his website for $2,000 a year with a very low budget. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now, what about this newly announced caliphate in Iraq and Syria? As you've no doubt heard by now, the Islamic militant group ISIS has declared the establishment of a caliphate, which is, by definition, an Islamic state led by a supreme religious and political leader known as the Caliph. Now, the announcement of this new caliphate came on the first day of the holy month of Ramadan, and the Caliph has already been selected. It's the leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The group has marched its way across Iraq, leaving at least 2,400 people dead in its wake last month alone. And recently, they released a map detailing their ambitious 5-year plan to capture much of the Middle East, North Africa, and much of Southern Europe. We have this map right there on our podcast page today, so you can see what their plans are. But if you really want to understand what is at stake here with this announcement of a caliphate, you must first understand the Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916, which was a secret agreement between Britain and France with the approval of the Russian Empire that served to carve up the Middle East territories in the wake of World War I, when the Ottoman Empire was kind of brought to its knees. And to fully understand and appreciate the importance of the Sykes-Picot Agreement, you must first understand a period of time in the 19th century known as the Great Game. And the Great Game was a major rivalry between an expanding British Empire, who controlled India, which was the jewel in the British crown, and an expanding Russian Empire, who was coming down southward towards Afghanistan and threatening, in the British mind, India. So Afghanistan, in essence, sits between these two regions, and there was some concern on both sides and mutual mistrust that caused them to engage in a lot of battle in Afghanistan and in this region. So it's known as the Great Game, and that's going to be our cover story for the upcoming FTM Quarterly Journal. We're going to be releasing that later this month, as Jennifer pointed out, for all of our FTM insiders. But suffice it to say that Russia and the U.S. and Iran currently are delivering weapons and aircraft to the region amidst this announcement of a new caliphate. The U.S. is preparing to sell thousands of missiles to the Iraqis and has recently upped its troop commitment to the region, sending even more Meanwhile, Russian military aircraft are being delivered to Iraq via Iran. And Iran, too, is sending air units and troop reinforcements to the country of Iraq. So, in the ultimate of ironies, the U.S. is engaged in a highly coordinated strategic military campaign alongside Iran. So the U.S. is fighting alongside the Iranian military in Iraq. But there's even more irony. There are new reports that the Saudis themselves have deployed 30,000 soldiers to the Saudi-Iraqi border. Now, the Saudis, who have willingly permitted and even condoned the support of radical Sunni groups like ISIS, are now fearful that they may have lost control over their band of terrorists. And it's not just the Saudi people that should be concerned here. The real threat, if ISIS does go into Saudi Arabia, are the Saudi royals, who fear they could be removed from power amid the seismic shifts that are occurring all across the Middle East right now. No doubt the Middle East continues to cause havoc in the global economy and what's happening in Ukraine. There is so much to cover and so little precious time. But we're going to be talking a lot about this caliphate in our major cover story that's coming out later this month, as I've already mentioned, in our FTM Quarterly Journal. So for those of you who want more information on this, be sure to subscribe to that or get a copy of it when it comes out. All right, what else? We've just got a few more minutes before Tom comes on. What else do we have here in our stack? Here we go. A government report this morning, 92 million Americans, 92,120,000 altogether total Americans age 16 and older do not have a job in the month of June and are not actively seeking one over the last 4 weeks. That coming straight from the government. And why should they look for a job? They live in Obama land, right, where the handouts never seem to cease. Speaking of freebies and handouts, the city of Berkeley, if you live there and you're homeless or if you're low income, you get free marijuana. The dispensaries now are handing out free marijuana to low income cannabis patients. You just can't make this stuff up, can you? Also, what else we got? The Dow Jones crashing through the 17,000 level this morning. Why? Well, didn't you hear about the jobs report? 288,000 jobs were created in the month of June, and the unemployment rate fell to 6.1%. Something's wrong with this story, friends. There's no surprise, by the way, on stocks. We've been telling you we expected this level to be reached on the Dow very soon at 17,000. We have long taught and expressed our belief that the Fed is targeting a Dow 20,000, so we don't expect to see really any kind of massive crash until the Fed gets what it wants. Now, it may not get there, or it may go way past it. But the general expectation now is we're going to see a Dow 20,000 come hell or high water. It's just going to happen. And we're also looking for the S&P next to close above the 2,000 level. We're still below that on the S&P right now. So, all right, well, there's plenty more to talk about, but I have Tom Cloud here ready to go. So let's go ahead and head over now to our precious metals market update, get an update from Tom on what's been happening in the gold and silver markets.
Well, Jerry, it's great to be back in the country. It's always great to go out and visit, and certainly this time I picked a crazy time to go with the way the markets behaved while I was out of the country.
Oh, I know it, Tom. I mean, they were just going straight up all throughout June, and it looks like we're holding firm at these levels here in July. But before we talk about that, I mean, how was Italy? I mean, did you enjoy it? You have a good time?
Yeah, it was. It's great. I think after going to northern Italy 3 times, up in Florence and Rome and Venice and Milan and Cinque Terre, but to go to southern Italy was fun. It's a place you only want to go to one time because it's so spread out and not near as busy as it is up north, but we really enjoyed it. It was a great time to go visit the Adriatic side of Italy rather than always on the Mediterranean side.
Yeah, I'm really glad you had a chance to kind of get away and get a vacation and relax. I think this last half of the year is going to be very busy. It looks like gold and silver have begun their ascent again. Even using our own trigger trade system here, you know, we sent out a buy signal not too long ago on gold and silver, a short-term buy signal, and the long-term buy signal is just, it looks like it's just a few weeks away, so we're very excited about that. But gold and silver, palladium and platinum woke up, it seemed like, right here in the middle of the year, And a lot of it has to do with what's happening perhaps with the gold and silver fix. Can you kind of explain what's happening with that, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have something that's 117 years old, and sometimes you get a little rusty getting used to London has the first fix and second fix, and it's all done in a room, and you've got the members, and they sit. And the problem always been is that they could fix a price, and it would be 30, 45 minutes before everybody else would know what the price was, which gave unfair trading advantage to the people that knew what the fix was. And of course, we started seeing lawsuits filed in earnest with employees that had left and were coming in and agreeing with everything. Our listeners know is that the markets are fixed and they are done to the advantage of certain people. But once these lawsuits were allowed to go forward, both in London and in New York courts, we saw people like Deutsche Bank, a main player in the silver fix and the gold fix for that matter, saying, well, we've already got liability potential here in these lawsuits. We don't want to get any more. And some people were estimating that a seat on the London fix was worth, upwards of $100 million. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but all of a sudden Deutsche Bank just says, we're getting out of it and we're not even selling the seat, because once again, you've got liability with these lawsuits that have been allowed to go forward. So now we're going to see the silver fix stop, and it'll be an instantaneous thing starting August 15th, and everybody will know what whichever one of the 7 proposals they end up using, and we'll know that in the next couple of weeks. It'll be an instantaneous thing. Everybody in the world will know what the fix is at the same time. So it's like leveling the playing field for us. And this is big news because it doesn't allow these powers that be to go short the market and push it down. And then when the market goes down, a lot of people jump on the train and make it go down faster. Of course, it can happen the other way also, as we've seen many times. But the key is just to get a level playing field, and this will level out the playing field, even though I can't tell you exactly right now how that new fix system is going to work.
Yeah, now you were saying around August 14th, August 15th, the silver fix, which has been around for, I guess, well over 100 years, as you pointed out, is going to come to an end. What are investors thinking is going to happen after that? Is that going to cause an immediate pop, you think, in silver, or do you think it might be a muted but delayed pop? I mean, what are investors expecting from this?
Well, I think the good news is it's happening right at the end of a summer, right as school is starting to start back around the United States and in Europe. So I think if it was in September, October, it would even be more dramatic. But what we're seeing, Jerry, here is just sophisticated money. I mean, I'm on the phone with money managers more than I've ever been, and we're getting calls from people managing $500 million, $90 million, and they're wanting physical metals now. They're wanting, because they're seeing, even in a low demand time historically, meaning from the middle of June to the middle of August, those are usually the lowest demand 2 months, and yet we're seeing the opposite right now. We're seeing big money moving into both gold and silver in the anticipation of the level playing field, which will put more demand on the physical metals, which will move more out of the COMEX warehouses and put pressure on the physical. So, sure, we may have a little volatility between now and August 14th, but as you pointed out, it's been going straight up recently, and even the investment scoreboard I sent out this week, really, I've had so much feedback from it that people are just startled to see what metals have done. So, it's kind of like brace for the fall this year. We got a big disappointment last fall. But this fall, I think we'll be back to what we've seen the past 14 years, minus one. And that was last year, that about 60% of the profit for the year could come in the last 4 months of the year.
Tom sends out a couple of emails per week, and you can get on his email list by going to our website, ftmdaily.com. @playdium.com/gold. And there you can sign up for Tom's email blast. Tom, platinum and palladium have also been making a lot of noise lately with both of the metals just kind of roaring. But what are your thoughts on those two metals?
Well, I think I've been beating palladium on your show now for 6 months, starting in January. I was begging people to buy palladium, still begging people to buy palladium, and the people that saw our investment scoreboard that went out earlier this week saw that palladium's up 16.82% for the first 6 months. And like I said, the strike is now settled. We've got a metal that's under high demand. We've got 8 new car factories in China, and we've still got a growing, even though the economy in China is not what it was, and we still got a growing car industry and people buying cars, and it's putting a big pressure on palladium. That's a metal that only comes from South Africa and Siberia and Russia and can only be mined in Russia about 8 months out of the year. So I still think palladium is underpriced even at $850 an ounce and up 16.82% for the year. I still think we've got a good chance to see $1,000 palladium either late this year or early next year, which is another 20% above where it is right now. Now, platinum's a little trickier because in some ways some of the auto manufacturers still use platinum, even though it's double, well, not double, but 70% higher than palladium, but they didn't make the cost of changing their manufacturing capabilities and continue to use platinum on the short term from their stockpiles. But what's going on with platinum, Jerry, is a jewelry play. It's the American women went to that slick platinum look first, and now we're seeing the Orientals want the same thing, and we're seeing large exports from South Africa into China in particular, and even Japan, as it's become the favorite metal for wearing in their rings. Gold is still very popular for necklaces and bracelets and things, but there's a big demand on platinum for wedding sets, and it's a very comfortable metal to wear, and it's just a demand that we can't ignore that's been growing in China. So the strike's a good thing because it raised the wages, and we now kind of know what the next 3 years are going to bring. And I think, like you said, the immediate adjustment went down and then right back up because actually the purchasing started increasing when the strike was settled because people were looking at alternative metals prior to that.
One of the things we do here at FTM Daily is we focus on the importance of diversification. And diversification is not just key because it helps your overall investment performance, but because the rules of the game can change. And so many people today are in strictly paper-based assets. In fact, I would say, and Tom, you might agree, but the typical yuppie retirement plan today in America is a house and a 401k. And so most people have most of their money in those types of government controlled assets. And you and I have been pounding the table saying have a little bit, at least a little bit of hard assets in your possession, and don't keep them somewhere else. Certainly don't keep them in an ETF where there is no way to ensure that they're backed up. But you also recently indicated that you had a brand new offshore solution for those who are wanting to hold their gold or silver offshore. Are there any new developments on that, Tom?
Well, the only development's a little bit negative. We had a conference call on Tuesday, and we'll have another one next Tuesday. I mean, everything is there. There's the codes in the IRS. You send one attorney to look at it, and there's certainly no reporting requirements. But there's always that gray area when you read government material, like you said earlier. And we're just trying to be sure we cross every T and dot every I. We don't want to be giving any information that's not 100% accurate. So the Singapore is officially a trade-free zone. We're really excited about the future. James Sinclair of, jsmindset.com is the head of it, and it is going to be outstanding. There are people already moving there, and the odds are you're probably safe to, but I'm not quite ready to tell my clients it's 100% that we know every exact thing that you're expected to do, to where you don't have any problem with the U.S. government or the IRS. So stay tuned, and we're very close to having it worked out, but we've hired an incredible law firm, 8 of us, 8 different people paying the bill, trying to, get everything crossed, be sure we've got everything we can tell our clients what to do. So stay tuned.
The importance of having gold and silver in your possession it cannot be overstated, especially with this bankrupt government the way that they are. We've gone over and over before in the past, for those who want to go back on the archives and find out why you and I don't believe that confiscation is a real threat. We also believe that numismatic coins, which are often the bait and switch that you get whenever you call one of these big telemarketing firms, or you call one of these, really big outfits like Swiss America or Goldline, you call the 800 number, and then before you know it, you've bought a whole bunch of Elvis coins, or you've bought a whole bunch of, coins that are kind of collectors. And the reason is because they pay more in commissions. And I think that's why so many of our folks, Tom, they really appreciate you, because A, you don't bait and switch them. When they call, you not only, tell them everything you offer, but you also provide some guidance, which I think is really important for new investors in the precious metals markets. Real quickly, before we bring it to a close, just tell our folks what you offer and how they can actually go about purchasing this. Many of our folks maybe have never done that before.
Well, Jerry, first of all, it is key when we can put a client into gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and put them where they only have about a 3% break even, and that includes me, that includes the wholesale, that includes everything. And when our clients need less than 3% to break even, that's unheard of in the gold world today. And people say, how do you do it? And of course, we run a lean staff, and I've spent 38 years developing a system to make costs as low as possible. And even in that, we pay the shipping and insurance, which cuts another quarter to 0.4% off our profit, because we're that dedicated to having people diversified. We believe it's a biblical mandate in Ecclesiastes 11:2 to divide your wealth 7 or 8 ways, because no man knows what disaster will come upon the earth. And I've taken that very serious throughout my career. And number 2, to see that gold's gone up nearly 500% in 14 years, and the rare coin index is not even doubled. And then you look at the astronomical commissions these telemarketing firms sell, and they try to trick people by telling them gold's going to be confiscated. Well, we just totally disagree with that, and I'm happy to discuss it with any of the listeners. But the key thing here is you had better have some gold and silver, and you better have it, in my opinion, as soon as you can get it, because I think in the fall we're going to start seeing shortages as central banks really start buying gold and silver, because the money presses are on, and we've seen some estimates that the money supplies worldwide are growing at over 20% this year, while you can't bring gold out of the ground and add more than 1.5% to the gold supply based on the current tonnage that's being mined worldwide. So if you've got 15 to 20 times more paper money being created than gold coming out of the ground, it doesn't take a genius to figure out when gold skyrockets, it's going to a big number. And the same for silver. So we're happy to talk to people about that. And you're right. We're just saying, get a percentage in there, have something in there. If the bank closes, like we've seen in Argentina and Cyprus and Greece and Brazil over the past 2 decades, you'll have something you can trade and barter and continue on with. And we'll talk about that also with the clients.
Why don't you give out your contact information and just real briefly, Tom, explain how the process works whenever someone actually wants to make a purchase?
Okay. First of all, our 800 number is 800-247-2812. That's 2812. You call us up and you'll get me or Dan or Kathleen, and we will take your order. We'll lock it in right there. The important thing is, if you wake up tomorrow and it's down a nickel or it's up $1, once you tell us to lock in, I use my credit and buy that, and I have to pay for that within 2 weeks. So we email you an invoice, locking in the price. You send us a check to get to us within 2 weeks, and once again, once you place the order, you've got to pay for it because I've gone out and bought it. And then when we receive your money, we put it in the bank, and 2 days later, we're on fast clear. So once your check clears, we then send it and we pay the postage and the insurance there. And unlike anybody we know in the industry, we'll resell it for you at no charge. Now that may change later, but if you get grandfathered in and, if you get in there, it'll be on what you bought. There'll be no back-end fee. And if there's a back-end fee, it'll be small in the future. But right now, we have not charged any back-end fees in 38 years. So anyway, that's pretty simple. And all these assets we deal in are liquid. Certainly there's a menu of gold and silver, and you can go to cloudhardassets.com and see a picture of the products that we're selling. Once again, it's cloudhardassets.com, and you can look at the metals. Be sure when you call us to tell us you heard about us on FTM, where you get the free shipping and insurance. That's very important. So that's the way the process works, Jerry.
Fantastic, Tom. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're busy, and I know you're back from a big trip, and you're probably looking forward to a weekend to relax and take it easy. So, but again, thanks for helping us out with some information here, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, Jerry. Always a pleasure.
And Follow the Money returns after this.
Hey friends, this is Jerry Robinson from Follow the Money Weekly. Recently, we have been receiving many emails from our listeners commenting on the great help they're getting from our precious metals expert, Tom Cloud. Gold and silver are excellent hedges against the growing threat of coming U.S. inflation. Who's your gold guy? Make it Tom Cloud. With over 30 years experience with precious metals, Tom will answer all of your questions. Don't buy your gold and silver through some call center and pay inflated prices. Call my good friend Tom Cloud and speak directly with him and get all of your questions answered. For a limited time, Tom is offering free shipping and insurance on every gold and silver purchase made by our listeners. Call 800-247-2812. And when you do, tell him that Jerry Robinson from Follow the Money Weekly sent you, and he'll throw in that free shipping and insurance on your entire order. Call your gold guy, Tom Cloud, right now for the very best deals on gold and silver coins. 800-247-2812. That is 800-247-2812. All right, friends, well, that brings us to the end of our program. Thank you so much for choosing to allow me into your life each and every day right here on Follow the Money. And as always, I leave you with this final word, this time taken from the book of Mark, chapter 8, verse 36, where Jesus says, "For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" Friends, how terrible to spend our entire waking lives committed to accumulating more physical possessions while ignoring our own spiritual lives. I challenge you to make a commitment today to feed your spirit. Nourish it by picking up a Bible. If you don't know where to start, just begin by reading through the book of John. Those words have life-changing power and will provide you great comfort in a world gone mad. Remember, friends, when you want the truth about the global economy, just follow the money. Have a safe and prosperous weekend, and we'll see you right back here next Monday. Until then, God bless.
All of the information contained on Follow the Money is strictly for informational and educational purposes. The views and opinions of our guests and sponsors, including Tom Cloud and Jay Peroni, are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of FTMDaily.com or Robinson Media Group, LLC. Jerry and Jennifer Robinson do hold their insurance licenses and may offer consulting on life insurance and fixed retirement income products. Jennifer Robinson is an investment advisor representative with Faith-Based Investor LLC. Remember, never do your financial planning through podcast or radio. It's your money. Be wise. Do your due diligence and always consult a trusted financial professional before making any financial decisions.